In every generation, fate selects a few men whose destiny is to transcend mortality and attain eternal glory. Among those few names forever etched in human history stands Leonidas of Sparta, a king whose act of courage and sacrifice echoes across the centuries. At the pass of Thermopylae, where mountains meet a restless sea, Leonidas led his 300 warriors into a battle doomed from the start, yet marked forever by unparalleled bravery and unwavering resolve in the face of overwhelming odds. Prepare to discover the story of Sparta's most famous leader and warrior, and the path that led him to find glory on the battlefield. Leonidas was born under exceptional circumstances, marked by prophecies and omens that clearly pointed to a grand destiny and a crucial role in the history of Sparta and Greece. As a member of the noble Agiad dynasty, one of the two royal families that traditionally composed Sparta's diarchy, he grew up in an environment of intense responsibility and expectation. From the beginning, the eyes of priests, nobles, and the Spartan people themselves were fixed on him, alert to signs that might confirm the ancient predictions of the Oracle of Delphi, according to which a descendant of King Anaxandridas would play a decisive role in the protection and survival of Greece against an overwhelming threat. Various myths and legends surround the birth of Leonidas, enriching his stature with an almost divine character. It is said that on the night of his birth, strange celestial phenomena were seen in the sky, as if the gods themselves were announcing the arrival of a future hero. Prophets and seers declared that the newborn enjoyed the favor of the gods, destined to accomplish extraordinary and heroic deeds. These stories, widely spread among the people, served to cultivate an aura of respect and admiration around Leonidas, creating grand expectations for his life and future. In his childhood and youth, Leonidas received decisive influences from his family and from Sparta's political dynamics. The son of King Anaxandridas II, he was raised within the royal milieu, where questions of power, honor, and responsibility were frequently debated and emphasized. Moreover, his upbringing was deeply shaped by Sparta's rigorous education, the Agoge, where he learned early the importance of courage, discipline, and leadership. Guided by mentors and close relatives, especially his brother Cleomenes, who also reigned before him, Leonidas developed a clear awareness of the role he was to play and of the expectations his people placed upon him. From the age of 7, Leonidas entered the Agoge, where he was subjected to a rigorous regime of physical and mental training, designed to forge boys into exceptional Spartan citizens. The youths were taught to endure pain, cold, hunger, and extreme exhaustion, strengthening not only the body, but also the spirit. Training included endless runs, hand-to-hand combat, survival under harsh conditions, and strategic exercises. Instruction in the Agoge also prioritized the development of camaraderie and loyalty among the men, creating a brotherhood bound by honor and courage. From an early age, Leonidas stood out among his peers for his exceptional martial skills and natural leadership. Instructors and mentors often remarked on his capacity to inspire and command, noting his firm resolve and unshakable spirit in the face of challenges that discouraged even the hardiest. The intense pressure of military training and the high expectations of Spartan society profoundly shaped Leonidas's character, making him a man of few words, but of decisive action, known for his calm in moments of great tension and his absolute commitment to Spartan ideals. His training prepared him to lead in battle and instilled in him ethical and moral foundations. A fundamental step in Leonidas's path was his marriage to Gorgo, daughter of the then King Cleomenes I. Gorgo, known not only for her beauty, but especially for her exceptional intelligence and political acumen, was admired for her unique ability to navigate the complex corridors of Spartan power. From a young age, she impressed with her discernment, even being noted by ancient historians for her active participation in affairs of state during her childhood. The marriage between Leonidas and Gorgo was consanguineous, given that King Cleomenes was Leonidas's half-brother and had no male heir. Therefore, to preserve the Agiad dynasty's power, a match was arranged between Leonidas and his niece. Gorgo often advised Leonidas with uncommon frankness, standing out among the women of her time for the freedom with which she voiced opinions on military and political matters. Her voice, respected and heard, helped Leonidas make wise, pragmatic decisions at critical moments preceding major battles and conflicts. More than a mere political partnership, the union of Leonidas and Gorgo was marked by deep rapport and mutual admiration. While Leonidas led on the battlefield, Gorgo stood as a bulwark of strength and wisdom in Sparta, ensuring internal stability and sustaining the city-state's morale. Her influence transcended the conventional limits of her role, making her one of the most notable figures in Spartan history and perfectly complementing her husband's courageous, resolute leadership. Leonidas's ascent to the Spartan throne occurred under particularly dramatic circumstances. After the unexpected death of his half-brother, Cleomenes I, seized by a madness that ultimately cost him his life, a power vacuum opened that had to be quickly filled to avoid instability. Initially, the throne might have fallen to his elder half-brother Darius, a charismatic and ambitious man. However, Darius renounced his claim to the throne, preferring to venture on colonizing expeditions far beyond Sparta's borders. These unpredictable events placed Leonidas, until then not destined to rule, directly at the center of power. His prior feats as a warrior, his impeccable reputation, and the respect he had earned among his peers were crucial to making his transition to power broadly accepted and celebrated. Upon ascending the throne, Leonidas quickly distinguished himself by his ability to unite Sparta's internal factions, consolidating his power through a unique combination of diplomatic skill and military authority. The Spartan army and people saw in him a born leader and the perfect embodiment of the city's martial values. During Leonidas's reign, the Persian threat under King Darius I became increasingly evident and menacing. The vast and powerful Persian Empire was rapidly expanding, swallowing kingdoms and city-states, and threatening the freedom of the Greek polis. Darius was determined to punish Athens and Eretria for supporting the Ionian revolt against Persian rule. This tension culminated in the historic Battle of Marathon in 490 BCE, when Persian troops landed on the plain of Marathon, just a few kilometers from Athens. Recognizing the looming gravity of the situation, Athens requested immediate support from Sparta, famed for its unbeatable army. Despite the urgency, Sparta faced a religious tradition that forbade its armies from marching before the full moon during the sacred festival of the Carneia. Leonidas, already a respected and influential leader, took an active part in the intense deliberations over the situation. Though he deeply understood the value of Spartan traditions, he argued vigorously for a swift and decisive military response, seeking a way to reconcile religious duty with military urgency. However, even in the face of his efforts, the Council of Elders known as the Gerousi upheld the tradition, preventing the Spartans from marching before the end of the Carneia. The Spartan warriors arrived too late for the battle, unable to take part directly in the clash at Marathon. Upon their arrival, they found the Athenians already victorious, having won a surprising and heroic triumph over numerically superior Persian forces. Leonidas could not help but feel deep disappointment at having missed the chance to fight directly at Marathon. The glory of that victory belonged exclusively to his Athenian rivals, something not lost on him or on Sparta's proud citizens. But history would reserve for him another chance, a new opportunity to face the fearsome Persians directly on the battlefield, and, this time, to etch his name forever among Greece's greatest heroes. After the legendary Battle of Marathon, in which victory belonged entirely to the rival Athenians, Leonidas returned to Sparta, deeply disappointed at not having had the chance to face the Persians and to prove Sparta's military might in battle. However, this frustration did not divert him from his duties as king, and he turned his attention to consolidating Sparta's power from within and strengthening its defenses. In the years that followed, Leonidas's reign was marked by deep concern over the looming Persian threat, a threat that was far from vanquished at Marathon. Aware that the Persians would certainly return with an even greater force, Leonidas sought to establish strategic alliances with other Greek city-states, despite Sparta's traditional isolationist stance. His diplomatic efforts and firm leadership helped unite Greece in a time of mounting tension. Leonidas also reinforced the Spartan army, intensifying military training and implementing tactical reforms that honed the efficiency of the already feared hoplite phalanx. His reputation as a just yet firm leader contributed significantly to boosting morale and discipline among his men. The Spartan populace, keenly aware of the external threat, strongly supported these measures, recognizing in their king the figure capable of leading them in times of crisis. As the Persians prepared for a new invasion under King Xerxes, successor to Darius, Leonidas closely monitored the enemy's movements and took an active part in the discussions of the Spartan council on how to confront this new and even more dangerous threat. At last, the opportunity for Leonidas to prove his courage and leadership before the Persians was near. The forces of the greatest empire the world had ever known were again at Greece's doorstep, and the Spartan king was determined to face them. Under Xerxes' command, the Persians made meticulous and extraordinarily ambitious preparations for the new invasion of Greece. Xerxes mobilized immense resources and summoned soldiers from every corner of his vast empire, from the mountains of Asia Minor to the fertile plains of Egypt, assembling a colossal force never before seen. The Persians built a vast pontoon bridge across the Hellespont, allowing their immense army to cross into Europe. In addition, Xerxes carefully coordinated supply lines and established a robust logistics network to keep his forces provisioned throughout the campaign. These detailed preparations clearly demonstrated Xerxes' absolute determination to conquer Greece, posing a formidable threat that would test the courage of the Greek defenders to its limits. In response to the imminent danger, several Greek city-states, aware that none could withstand the gigantic Persian force alone, decided to set aside old rivalries and join forces. This unprecedented union resulted in the formation of the Hellenic League, a strategic military alliance created to face the Persian threat in a coordinated and effective way. Sparta, under Leonidas's leadership, played a crucial role in the formation and leadership of this alliance. The Hellenic League symbolized a rare moment of cooperation and unity among Greek cities, traditionally divided by rivalries and local conflicts. Cities such as Athens, Corinth, and Thebes committed to contribute troops and resources to face the common enemy. This temporary union was marked by intense diplomatic negotiations and strategic meetings, where the commitment to Greek freedom outweighed internal disputes and political differences. According to detailed accounts by the historian Herodotus, a striking episode occurred when Persian envoys arrived at Sparta's gates with a clear and provocative demand. They require earth and water, traditional symbols of submission to Persian supremacy. These emissaries, direct representatives of Xerxes, intended to demonstrate the inevitability of Persian dominion over the Greek cities, confident in their empire's overwhelming superiority. Upon appearing before the Spartan leaders, they arrogantly voiced the imperial demand, expecting immediate submission. However, the Spartan response was far bolder and more defiant than the Persian envoys could have ever imagined. Leonidas and the Spartan leaders seized the envoys and, without hesitation, hurled them into a deep well, a place where the condemned and the undesirable were thrown. As they watched the envoys fall, they declared with sarcasm that there the emissaries could find all the earth and water they desired. This forceful, dramatic gesture was an unequivocal declaration of Sparta's resolve to face any threat to its sovereignty with absolute courage and without concessions. This episode quickly spread throughout Greece, reinforcing the reputation of Sparta and Leonidas as symbols of fierce, unyielding resistance to any attempt at subjugation. Faced with the Persians' ever closer threat, the Spartans, keenly aware of the gravity of the situation, decided to seek divine guidance by sending a delegation to the revered Oracle of Delphi, a sacred place where the Greeks believed they could hear the gods' counsel through the priestess Pythia. When the Spartan envoys reached the temple, they performed careful rituals and offerings, anxiously awaiting the words that could determine their city's fate. The priestess revealed an enigmatic and unsettling prophecy, uttering words laden with a dark and inescapable destiny. Either Sparta would be utterly destroyed by the Persian invaders, or it would have to mourn deeply the heroic sacrifice of one of its kings. For Leonidas, these words resonated with an even deeper, more personal meaning. The king understood that, because of his position and the historical moment in which he lived, his life and destiny were directly intertwined with the words pronounced by the oracle. As the mighty Persian army advanced inexorably toward Greek territory, Leonidas decided to formally request the full mobilization of Spartan forces, clearly recognizing the crucial importance of the narrow pass at Thermopylae as a strategic point of resistance. However, his proposal met an insurmountable barrier: the ephors, powerful magistrates who rigorously guarded Sparta's religious and political traditions, categorically refused to permit a general call-up, due to the sacred period of the Carneia, a religious festival during which military actions were strictly forbidden by ancient, inviolable traditions. Blocked by the ephors, Leonidas then turned to the Gerousia, Sparta's respected council of elders, seeking an alternative solution to ensure that the defense could proceed even amid religious constraints. Recognizing the impending gravity of the Persian threat and the urgency of an immediate response, the elders, after careful and intense deliberation, decided to grant a special authorization. They allowed Leonidas to depart only with his personal guard, composed of 300 of the most distinguished and experienced Spartan warriors, each man hand-picked. Despite the drastic limitation in numbers, Leonidas accepted the Gerousi's decision. He clearly understood the historical weight of his mission and the gravity of the responsibility on his shoulders. Leonidas sent messengers to the allied city-states, calling on them to dispatch military reinforcements to support the resistance against the imminent invasion. The Greek cities responded with urgency. Thebes, Corinth, Athens, and many others sent troops, fully aware of the urgent need to defend their freedom against the vast Persian army. As the allied forces gathered under his leadership, Leonidas carefully organized the logistics and strategy for the defense of Thermopylae. Recognizing the strategic importance of the pass, whose narrow terrain limited the Persians' numerical advantage, he decided to strengthen his position further by rebuilding the so-called Phocian Wall. With the help of the Allied soldiers, additional defenses were quickly raised, making the already naturally defensible pass even more formidable. Each contingent from the different city-states contributed significantly to the preparations, demonstrating unprecedented cooperation, with soldiers of varied backgrounds working side by side for the defense of Greece. The 300 of Sparta, together with their allies, Thebans, Corinthians, and Thespians, formed a force of approximately 7,000 fighters. But marching toward them was a colossal, multi-ethnic army made up of hundreds of thousands of combatants from many lands of the East. The fate of Greece was in Leonidas' hands, as he was about to confront the greatest army the Greeks had ever heard of. In the summer of 480 BCE, beneath a merciless sun, a column of warriors advanced with firm, resolute steps toward the narrow pass of Thermopylae, known to the Greeks as the Gates of Fire. At the head of this march was King Leonidas, clad in imposing armor and wearing the iconic crested helm, the symbol of Spartan courage. Each of the 300 warriors who followed him had been handpicked, men who had sworn to fight to their last breath for the freedom of Sparta and all of Greece. The Spartans' arrival at Thermopylae was marked by a charged atmosphere, The heavy silence of the march was broken only by the measured rhythm of leather sandals striking the dry earth, a sound that echoed like war drums. As they approached the narrow pass, the imposing landscape underscored the gravity of the moment. Steep cliffs and a menacing sea hemmed in the space where the great battle was about to unfold. There, in that strategic position, Leonidas and his men took up their posts, keenly aware of the immense responsibility they bore, and of the imminent approach of the colossal Persian army led by Xerxes. The Spartans began preparations to strengthen their defenses and to restore the Phocian Wall, a defensive fortification restored to constrict the pass even further and maximize the strategic advantage the terrain afforded them. Men from various Greek city-states worked side by side, hauling stones, digging trenches, and building barricades. As the days passed and the preparations continued, the Greek encampment became a place of intense interaction among the various allied contingents. Thebans, Thespians, Corinthians, and soldiers from other city-states shared quarters, traded tactics, and deepened their camaraderie under Leonidas's inspiring leadership. The Spartan king, renowned for his firmness and courage, soon became a unifying figure, swiftly earning the respect and admiration of warriors from the other cities. Despite cultural differences and historic rivalries, Leonidas's leadership forged a cohesive, determined front, ready to face the looming Persian threat as one. In the moments before the inevitable clash, the last diplomatic contacts between Greeks and Persians took place. Confident in his crushing numerical superiority, Xerxes sent envoys to demand once more the submission of the Greek forces, offering terms if they surrendered peacefully. Confronted with Persian provocation, the Spartans answered with unshakable, defiant resolve. When the Persian envoys warned that their arrows would be so numerous as to blot out the sun, the Spartan warrior Deinachus replied calmly, "All the better, then we shall fight in the shade." This line, delivered with absolute serenity, became a symbol of the courage and resilience that would define the legendary stand at Thermopylae. The initial engagement began with ferocious intensity. The first Persian troops advanced confidently against the Greek position, only to be met by a living, disciplined wall of shields and spears, meticulously arranged by the Spartans. Demonstrating the formidable military technique for which they were famous, the Spartans formed a perfectly coordinated phalanx, each warrior shielding the comrade on his left while wielding his spear with lethal precision. The phalanx moved with impressive synchronization, advancing and withdrawing with absolute discipline and maintaining impenetrable cohesion against the Persian assaults. The opening skirmishes quickly revealed the tactical superiority and experience of the Greek troops, especially the Spartans. Even under repeated attacks, the phalanx held firm, clearly reflecting the effectiveness of years of rigorous training and extreme conditioning. The Persian forces, despite their persistent attempts and numerous assaults, failed to break the Greek lines, suffering heavy and unexpected losses. The geography of Thermopylae Pass proved decisive to the Greek strategy. The narrow strip between steep mountains and the sea prevented the Persians from fully leveraging their numerical advantage, forcing them to attack in successive waves, easily repelled by the Greeks' organized resistance. The Persian reaction to this initial resistance was marked by surprise and bewilderment. Accustomed to swift victories through numerical superiority, their commanders were stunned to see their troops repeatedly fail against an enemy so inferior in numbers, yet so superior in discipline and technique. Further Persian attempts to negotiate a peaceful surrender were made to avoid greater losses. But the Greeks stood firm in their unwavering determination, categorically rejecting every Persian offer. Their stance was clear and resolute. They preferred death in battle to dishonorable submission, a message that rang loud and clear to Xerxes and his vast host. Throughout the intense days of fighting at Thermopylae, the Greek soldiers faced continuous Persian attacks, and the daily challenge of keeping their forces effective under extremely exhausting conditions. Every moment between enemy assaults was carefully used by the Greeks to manage essential resources, food and water, distributed with discipline and restraint to ensure the stand could last as long as possible. Limited provisions were carefully rationed among the combatants, and each soldier took personal responsibility for strict maintenance of his weapons and armor, sharpening spears, repairing shields, and making sure every piece was ready for the next clash. Shifts at the front were arranged with Spartan precision, allowing brief but valuable periods of rest for exhausted soldiers, while others took their places on the line. These short intervals were essential to restore, however minimally, the warriors' physical and mental strength. They seized every moment to rest, eat, and tend to the superficial wounds earned in the ceaseless fighting. At the center of it all stood the imposing figure of King Leonidas. The Spartan king made a point of being constantly present on the front line, fighting shoulder to shoulder with his warriors and sharing directly in the risks and dangers of battle. His physical presence and inspiring leadership lifted the soldiers' morale, strengthening their spirit of resistance and resolve. The mere sight of the king, calm and confident, was enough to reinvigorate the ranks, reminding them continually of the supreme honor of defending their land and freedom to their last breath. As the struggle at Thermopylae intensified, and the regular Persian forces continued to fail in overcoming the Greek defenses, Xerxes decided to send in his elite troops, the Immortals. This unit of highly trained, disciplined soldiers numbered 10,000. Their name came from the rapid replacement of any man fallen in battle, creating a chilling illusion of invincibility. The Immortals advanced with arrogant confidence, certain they could easily break the Greek lines. But they quickly discovered they faced an adversary worthy of their fearsome reputation. The Greek defenders, led by the relentless Spartans, met the Immortals with even greater ferocity and refined technique. Again employing their compact phalanx formation, the Greeks held firm, striking and repeatedly repelling the charges of this much-dreaded Persian corps. To the Immortals' surprise and Xerxes' growing frustration, even his most feared unit could not force a path through the Greek wall of shields and spears. They suffered heavy casualties and were driven back after each attack. This failure significantly shook Persian confidence, for never before had their best troops been resisted so successfully. Yet despite their defensive success, the Greek soldiers constantly faced intense psychological strain. The physical exhaustion of continuous fighting, combined with the unending pressure of wave after wave of enemies, created an atmosphere that took an extreme emotional toll. Anxiety and fear naturally stalked the warriors during their brief pauses between combats. But these feelings were countered by strict military discipline and the steadfast presence of their commanders, above all, Leonidas. Aware of the crucial importance of high morale for their forces' survival and effectiveness, the Greek leaders encouraged their men with short, stirring speeches, reminding them constantly of the nobility of their mission and of the eternal glory awaiting those who fell defending their homeland. This strong sense of duty and honor helped the soldiers confront their inner doubts and keep their courage even in the face of overwhelming odds. Thus, each Greek warrior found strength to keep fighting, enduring day after day in an act of bravery and resolve that would echo forever through history. In the darkness of the nights that shrouded the battlefield of Thermopylae, while the Greek soldiers sought rest after yet another exhausting day of combat, a treacherous event was about to alter the battle's fate radically. Ephialtes, a local inhabitant familiar with the region's mountain paths, secretly approached the Persian commanders with an offer that would seal the defenders' doom. Driven by greed and the promise of reward, Ephialtes revealed the existence of a narrow hidden path that bypassed the main pass, allowing the Persians to outflank the Greek defensive position and strike from the rear. This concealed path, known only to locals, was a twisting mountain route, difficult and treacherous, yet capable of decisively changing the course of the fight. Sensing the opportunity offered by this valuable information, the Persian commanders quickly dispatched the Immortals to traverse the passage by night, under the command of the skilled general Hydarnes. Moving in absolute silence, this elite force traversed the rugged trail, evading the watch of Greek sentinels, who were wholly unaware of that alternative route. News of the betrayal's discovery had a devastating impact on the defenders' morale, as the first reports reached the Greek camp. Until that moment, the Greek forces had held successfully, keeping faith that they could hold the Persians indefinitely at their strategic position. Now, however, they faced a threat that compromised their entire defensive plan, for they would be attacked simultaneously from front and rear. Confronted with the devastating revelation of the secret path shown to the Persians, Leonidas fully grasped what the treachery meant for the fate of the Greek forces at Thermopylae. Knowing the position was irreversibly compromised and annihilation inevitable, the Spartan king called an urgent council with the leaders of the allied contingents. There, before his officers and closest soldiers, Leonidas announced a decision that would echo forever through history. He and his 300 Spartans would remain to the end, holding the Persians as long as possible and giving the remaining Greek forces the time they needed to organize the defense at other strategic points. The allies were given leave to withdraw, thereby ensuring the survival of soldiers who could continue the fight in future decisive battles. Yet, deeply moved by the Spartans' courage and imminent sacrifice, many soldiers, especially the Thespians, refused to leave the field, choosing to remain at the side of the 300 to the end. By consciously choosing sacrifice, Leonidas affirmed for all of Greece, and later for the world, the highest Spartan ideals: honor, courage, and absolute devotion to the freedom of their state. As dawn broke on the fateful day of the final clash, the last defenders prepared for a fight they knew would be their last. Donning their armor and taking up their weapons for the final time, each Spartan warrior embraced his fate with serenity and unshakable firmness. Under Leonidas's leadership, they advanced with an almost otherworldly courage to meet the Persian forces, already closing in from all sides. The final battle was fierce and bloody, with Spartans and allies fighting with desperate, heroic intensity. Though vastly outnumbered, each warrior fought to the utmost limit of his strength, displaying unmatched martial skill and extraordinary endurance. Broken spears gave way to swords, and when their swords broke, the combatants used their bare hands and teeth, refusing to surrender or retreat. At the center of this frantic, brutal struggle stood Leonidas, whose imposing presence and fearless leadership heartened his men even as the enemy noose tightened inexorably. Covered in wounds, yet fighting with tireless resolve, he personified the very essence of courage and sacrifice. At last, surrounded on all sides and exhausted beyond any limit, Leonidas and his men fell beneath the Persians' ceaseless rain of arrows. But even in their final moments, no plea for mercy was heard among the Greek warriors. Their heroic deaths instantly became an immortal symbol of resistance, honor, and absolute sacrifice. The legacy of that extraordinary act would echo through the ages, transforming the military defeat at Thermopylae into one of history's greatest moral and spiritual victories, reminding the world that true greatness lies not only in conquest, but also in the ability to stand bravely before the impossible. The heroic death of Leonidas at Thermopylae quickly became far more than a military episode. It turned into a living myth, an eternal symbol of courage, honor, and unshakable resistance in the face of tyranny. The deliberate, serene choice of the Spartan king and his men to face certain death rather than yield to submission resonated deeply in the collective imagination not only of ancient Greece, but of later generations around the globe. Leonidas's sacrifice was decisive both symbolically and strategically. By delaying the Persian advance, the Spartans enabled the Greek cities to organize for the subsequent battles, such as Salamis and Plataea. which eventually repelled the Persian invasion and ensured the survival of Greek civilization and culture. The act of bravery at Thermopylae was not in vain. It became a decisive milestone in defending the civilization that would become one of the pillars of Western culture. In the centuries that followed, the name and example of Leonidas crossed generations, becoming a constant touchstone in political, military, and cultural discourse. His courage was celebrated in epic poems, dramas, sculptures, and paintings. He became a symbol of the struggle against oppression, inspiring countless generations and movements throughout human history. His strategy for confronting a vastly superior army is studied to this day in military academies around the world. More than 2,000 years after his death, the legend of Leonidas and his 300 warriors continues to inspire, reminding us of the value of courage, dignity, and personal sacrifice for the common good. The story of the Spartan king lives on as an eternal example of true heroism, reflecting humanity's capacity to face the most extreme adversities with determination, courage, and honor.